Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
Good morning and welcome to another great episode on the Strategic Project Leader. How are you all doing today? Because I am doing awesome. When I think about the Strategic Project Leader podcast, I think about projects, business, and life. It brings me excitement. Remember, projects are the engines of progress. They help paint an invisible picture. It's like a canvas of art that gets brought to life with great leaders who are project professionals who help organizations achieve goals and overall create a life we've always craved for. On the Strategic Project Leader podcast, we're all about providing the tools, the strategies, and the tips you need to become not just an average professional, but elevating that to become a value accelerator where you become almost indispensable in your organization as well as within your own personal circle as well. I am your host, Fola Alabi, and I've been called the Strategic Project Leader. I am so passionate about this because project strategic leadership has transformed my life, my career, and my business. And I share this every single time. And with leaders who come together to create this, we can help create a trajectory that could help you as a professional create that for yourself as well. Today's a special episode because we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people think, how can I get the next opportunity? And I've got a great leader who has invested over how you can become a leader, but always get the next role that you want, within your own terms. I love talking about it because at times people say, oh, I'm not looking for a job. I say, you don't need to, the best time to get a job is probably not when you're looking for one. And we're going to be diving into how you can land your dream role, the strategies, the tips, the things that you've never really uncovered before. But before we get in there, I want to know where exactly you're joining us from. Let me know in the comments. I am live in Cali, Alberta. Right now it's snowing. You can see outside from the window. The snow is coming down. Let me know where you're joining us from, as well as what's happening within your world. Now, let me talk about this exceptional leader. When I think about landing your dream job, I had to go through the market and say, who is that person? Who is that leader? Who is actually passionate about this? I have got Mark. He's the founder and publisher of the Max List, a job board and career hub for the Pacific Northwest. He's got a mission to actually help empower the workforce and improve that. He's founded this in Portland, Oregon in 2021. The fact is that he speaks, he's got a podcast, he has worked with several individuals all over the world to help elevate their careers. And he's wrote a book that's titled Land Your Dream Job Anyway. It doesn't matter if you're in America, in Asia, you can leverage the same strategies and create the career that you've always wanted. Can you please join me as I bring up Mark? Mark, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Fola. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for asking. So great to have you. And I know you just came back from vacation, so tell me about that. Where did you go?
I went to Italy for 2 weeks. As you mentioned, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and was fortunate to be able to go to Europe for a short visit. And I went to a film festival for 8 days and then visited 2 other Italian cities. And it was a wonderful break.
Fantastic. I know it's always great when you can unwind and just relax and be, energized to get through, work and life as well. That's definitely fantastic. We know that we've got so much to unpack today, so let's get right into it. When we think about landing our dream role, especially specifically think about leaders or think about people who are project professionals who think, I want to become a project manager, I want to become maybe the next level, a director. What are the key things any aspiring leader should actually look out for when they want to land their dream jobs?
I think the first thing is you're in charge of your career. And that means you don't want to wait to be picked for a role. And you want to bring the same strategic focus to your career that you bring to the projects and other work that you do in your job. And in order to do that, Fola, you have to have a clear goal. You have to know what you want. You have to be clear about what you offer. And finally, you have to understand the needs of the organizations that interest you. So you can demonstrate that you not only understand their problems, but you've got the skills and the experience to solve those problems.
I think the key thing there is you just spoke about being the one who solves problems. I love the fact I talk about being the value, but what exactly are your unique assets that you bring to the table? And you also mentioned that the best time when we think about landing your job, because you own your career, is that you have to navigate this. You don't have to wait for them to come find them, for you to go search for them. They should always be looking for you. And so, how can you create that persona, or how can you create that brand, or what do you need to do to ensure that you are always valuable, you are always sought after?
Again, once you have those basics addressed, you know what it is you want to do, and you know the organizations that interest you. You have to be out in the community where you want to work in that field, and showing that you've got the skills and experiences that employers want. One of the best ways to do that is to be visible, and you can do it online, you can do it in person. Common ways uh, of getting involved in your professional community include things like signing up to go to events sponsored by chapters for professional groups that are in your field. But having an online presence matters too. You don't have to post every day on a platform like LinkedIn, but you don't you do want to be have a regular presence. And when you're out there in the community, either virtually or in person, connecting with professionals and leaders in the field where and in the organizations where you want to work, then they will think of you when opportunities come up. And referrals and those kinds of connections are so powerful, Ola, because in the end, employers want to reduce risk when they hire. And one of the ways they do that is they turn to people they know, like, or trust. And the good news is you don't have to be the best friend of the hiring manager to get an interview or have a conversation about an opportunity. Sometimes it can be the weakest of connections. But to get those referrals in a regular way, you got to be clear about what you want and where you want to go.
Oh, having a plan, right? Because at the end of the day, you cannot get where you don't even know what you even want in the first place. So how can you then really craft a career plan or career strategy? Because I get that question a lot. People kind of say, yes, I know, I definitely want to earn more money. Or, I think I should be paid more. I believe that there's something else out there for me. But I'm like, okay, what exactly is your plan? What's that strategy? And how do you want to get there? How have you been able to help, consultants, professionals to actually craft that strategy and that plan to help always consistently land your dream roles anywhere?
Well, first, let's talk about common mistakes many job seekers make. And candidly, I made these errors early in my career as well. So don't be embarrassed if you're doing these things. You just think about how you're going to stop doing them. And the first is when you're interested in making a change, you sit down at the computer and you look at job boards like the one I run for employers and job seekers in Oregon and Washington State. There are thousands of boards out there. Many people, when they think about how to look for work, they think, okay, I'll look at Indeed, LinkedIn, maybe a niche site in my field, and I'll start sending out applications. Um, there's value in that, but it has to be strategic and focused because if all you're doing is sending out applications every day and measuring progress by the number of resumes you email to others, and then perhaps tracking your interviews, and you're making your search longer and harder than it has to be. And the reason that happens is because you're competing against dozens, sometimes hundreds of other people. Uh, the second mistake I see people, candidates make is they use the application process as a substitute for research. In other words, they think, well, that position interests me. I could do that job. I'll send it an application and see what happens. And I've got some questions about the company, and I'll explore that in the interview. The problem with that approach is you're competing against people who know they want to work at that organization. You're competing against people who have crafted their resume, tweaked it so it's customized for that organization. You're competing against people who've had conversations with leaders and peers and staff.
Internally.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's given them insights into what matters to that employer, and their applications are reflecting that. And most importantly, you're competing against people who, because they've developed a contact inside that organization because they know that's one of the places that interests them. Um, they've got they're going to get a referral, and I would challenge your listeners. Everybody who's listening to this session has done their share of hiring, and we've all been in that situation where we've got 10, 20, 50 resumes, and our charge is to get it down to the 3 to 5 people we're going to interview. And a colleague either sends us an email, or if we're working hybrid or in person, comes down the hall and says, "Hey, you should talk to Fola." And now that might not get you an interview, but you're going to pull Fola's resume out and you're going to look at it. And you're going to spend some careful amount of time studying that resume. And odds are it probably will get you an interview, won't get you the job, but it creates an opportunity for you to demonstrate who you are and what you can do for that employer. So I think it's I would encourage people on the call to think about those mistakes and ask yourself if you're making them. And uh, because if you are, and again, it's normal. Again, I've done all those things, as have many successful people I've met. But if you're doing it, you're making your search harder and longer than it has to be. And I'd love to talk too about how to take a strategic approach, but I wanted to address those common mistakes first.
Absolutely. I think that's really, these are so good points because there's so many pitfalls. Because I have seen this thousands of times. I'm not even exaggerating, where people kind of say, guess what? I've applied to like 3,000 applications. I'm talking
Yeah,
like, really? Why should you just take your resume and just throw it out there? It doesn't really matter.
right.
You have to be focused. You have to be strategic. You have to think about, what do I truly want? And how does my experience align with what the organization actually wants? And how can I tailor that? You can actually almost have at least a 90% success chance with every application you make because it's tailored, it's strategic. You have done your research to what markets actually said. You understand what the market's needs are. And you probably can now tailor the skill sets that are valuable to the employer and position that. And just for those who are actually listening, we're going to try and get through some key areas here. At the end of this, we're going to talk about how to navigate the market, how to maybe tailor your skills for development, some form of industry insights as well, and hopefully maybe how to craft a perfect resume that can definitely help you land the job. So you've already kickstarted this in a very great way, Mark. How can we definitely then take a strategic focus to ensure that these job applications that are being thrown out there are definitely tailored and specific to ensure that we can land our dream roles anywhere?
Well, we talked about this at the start of the conversation, the importance of having a clear understanding of what it is you want to do. So if you're using phrases like, I'm keeping my options open, or if you're telling peers, let me know if you hear of anything, those are signs that you're uncertain about what you want to do, or you're not doing a good job of communicating what you want to do. So people who know exactly what they want to do have gone through some kind of self-assessment process. Maybe they've worked with a career coach. Maybe they've used some self-assessment tools that they found online. Maybe they've been in touch with a career services center at their university as a grad. Um, but they have a clear understanding. They can tell you the job title, the position they want. The second thing you need to have that strategic focus, Vola, is to have a target list of employers. There are tens of thousands of jobs you'll find on any big national or international website. Uh, but when I talk to candidates who are clear about what they want, they usually have a list of maybe 15 or 20 employers that interest them. And that's where they put their energy and effort. And if they're not clear about that list, they do informational interviews, professional conversations with peers and leaders in their industry to identify the organizations that will interest them. And some of the criteria you might use to do that, uh, you know the job you want. Well, what kind of employer do you want to work at? Do you want to work hybrid? Do you want to work 100% remote? What kind of values do you want your employer to have? Do you want to be at a small organization, a large one? Do you want to work internationally? Pose a set of questions for yourself about what a perfect employer might be and look at the answers, and that will help you come up with your list. And if you only have a handful of organizations on the list, then go out and talk to people in your field and ask them about the organizations that meet your criteria. And once you have a short list of, say, 15 to 25 organizations, you want to chase employers, not jobs. And I have to give credit to Nick Corcodilos, the head who runs the Ask the Ed Headhunter website, for that idea, because so many people chase jobs, but really there are probably only a couple dozen employers that offer the opportunities that you want. And that's, again, where you want to put your energy. Once you have that list and you know what you want, be clear about, go out and talk to people inside those organizations and find out what challenges the managers and the leaders of those employers are facing, what's keeping them up at night, because then you can reflect back on your own experience and your own skills, and that will help you prepare a great application for positions inside that organization. It'll also help you develop relationships and connections that will create referrals and help you uncover jobs that may never be advertised, or if they are publicly posted, you'll have relationships with people inside the organization that will help you get interviews and get in the room so you can show what you can do for that employer. And again, that goes back to being a problem solver, because in the end, employers hire people who are going to solve problems. And if you can demonstrate enthusiasm and excitement about the position, are great, and you should have it, but that alone won't get you the job. You got to show how you can make that manager's life easier.
I love this. I always talk about being a value accelerator. And I love the fact that you said never target a role, target an organization. So now you feel that you want to work for Microsoft, you want to work for NASA, or you want to work for, even it might be a startup. The key is understanding how you position yourself, understand the value and the strengths that you have. So that way, even if that position actually doesn't exist right now, you can almost pitch to say, guess what? I have done my research and maybe I found that maybe let's say Microsoft, there's an opportunity here where we could leverage a specific type of technology that maybe you are good at to help improve our sales. So that way you're in positioning yourself as that person, as that authority, how can help solve that actual problem, rather than just saying that I just want to go land a job, maybe as a quality assurance manager or project manager or an analyst. But that way you are specific as to the value you bring, how you can help add value, and then you will always be the one that will be pointed out. I love that so much. That's definitely a very, very, very good uncovering piece. And I want to take this even a little bit deeper. Now that you've already identified the organizations, you have a list, you've identified your strengths, you know exactly what you can do. How do you then navigate this to start approaching them? Because a lot of people kind of say, like, I really don't know people, and how do I really connect with those hiring? How do I build these relationships? What are the tips and strategies that could actually help professionals build and connect with hiring managers or people who can help them land their dream roles?
I'm so glad you brought this up, Fola, because I hear this a lot. I'm in Portland, Oregon. Nike has its international headquarters just outside the city. I meet people here locally I say, well, where would you like to be? And I'd love to work at Nike. Well, my next question is, who are you talking to at Nike? And often I hear, well, I don't know anyone there. And that
Mm.
doesn't mean the conversation has to end. It's just, well, okay, how do you reach out to people at Nike, or you mentioned Microsoft or NASA? I'm a big believer in aim and high. If you want to work at Microsoft or NASA or Nike, tell people that, because that is a great way to identify people that you can speak to. For example, another organization headquartered here in Portland, Oregon, that is attractive to a lot of job seekers is Mercy Corps International. They do disaster relief around the world, and met a job seeker who her dream was to work there. She was an accountant, and she didn't know anyone at Mercy Corps, but she kept telling people that she wanted a finance position at Mercy Corps. And eventually she met somebody who said, well, my cousin, I think works in the accounts payable department there. Would you like to talk to her? And that conversation led to a series of meetings that eventually allowed this person to get the insights and information they needed to put together a compelling application that led to a job. And it happened because the person was very specific about telling others what she wanted. And she didn't limit herself to just her professional friends. She was telling family, friends, people she met at church, and at her kid's school. And that led to the connection. Now, there are other ways to do this as well. If you know you want to work at Microsoft or NASA or Nike, go on LinkedIn, which is a wonderful way of identifying first or second or even third connections that you can reach out to and ask for conversations. If you see that you have no first degree connections inside an employer, but you have second degree connections, ask the people you know in common if they'll make an introduction, and treat it like a research project. You're not asking the people that you're reaching out to inside these employers for a job. You're simply asking them about opportunities inside the organization. How does the hiring process work? What are some of the challenges that section of the organization faces? Um, when they do recruitment, how do they do it? Is there a search firm they work with, an outside recruiting or staffing firm, for example? The more information you get about that and advice you get, the more you'll understand how hiring works, what matters to the people inside those organizations. And even more importantly, you'll be making a great positive impression and people will think of you when opportunities come up.
I really like that. Another piece that I want to really add to it is that in every single conversation or with every single relationship that you're trying to cultivate, even before you ask a question, make sure you position a value add.
Mhm.
It's just like the mentor mentee relationship where people kind of feel, I just want to go in and grab, I want to get more from Mark. But what exactly have you got that's also attractive to Mark? To say, just for instance, right, I'm a project manager. You can say I have helped organizations even reduce risk in this particular area. And I see that this company may have this, and that's the value that I bring. Rather just coming to say that, oh yeah, I want an interview and I'm looking for a job. Just
Mhm.
the position and how you get into the conversation sets the tone of what that relationship can actually morph into. So it's absolutely critical that before you try and just jump in and say, someone I'm looking for a job as well, it's like always lead with, I've seen this, I've got this skill, or
Yeah.
I want to learn about this as well because I'm passionate about this too. I don't know if you've seen that, Mark, because a lot of the times people kind of feel they send you so many messages. I want a job in whatever. I'm like, okay, so what? But lead it from the perspective of maybe, I see Mark and say, Mark, I've seen your work. You're passionate about hiring process. You've done all this for the past 20 years. I want to learn something from you. That's going to get Mark's attention and say, how can you give me a little bit more insight as to how you've been able to navigate this
Mhm.
through your career? Mark will definitely want to share that. And then if we take it this a little bit deeper now we've been able to lead. We know what our strengths are. We know the value we want to add. We've tried to network. Now you've done that. What will be the next step in now acing? Let's say now you're not presented that opportunity to say, okay, guess what?
Next step after you've done this basic work, you know what you want, where you want to go, what you offer, you've developed relationships inside the organizations where you want to work. One or all or both of two things are going to happen. In these conversations, you're going to uncover jobs that aren't being posted or are going to be advertised soon, and you want to find out more about those positions so that if they are publicly posted, you understand what the challenges are and you can craft a resume and cover letter that is going to show that you're ideally suited to tackle those challenges. If the position isn't going to be posted, you want to understand how the hiring process is going to work so that you can get in touch and talk directly with the hiring managers or recruiters who are leading that process. And so you want to be part of that small group of people who are going to get interviews, and you and to compete most effectively, you got to have that understanding of what's keeping those managers up at night and what you can do for that organization and the people who lead it. Um, that's the natural next step.
Awesome. At interviews, then, no, you know what the pain points are. How do you really shape? Because people talk about having a personal story. At times, people think about just
Mhm.
speakers or leaders who come in to give big speeches. How can professionals, especially project managers, who want to become private directors, vice presidents, how do they coin up their whole experience journey? I call it into like a journey, and make sure you target the areas that definitely adds value. Does that mean that you just focus on maybe like the last two roles? Do you focus on a particular skill you've actually just acquired? What have you found to be the best way to position yourself as the person who should definitely get whatever role that is at interviews?
Make it about the interviewer. Don't make it about you. Now, obviously, you have to talk about your strengths and experiences, but you need to do it in a way that demonstrates that you're going to make the life easier of the person you're interviewing with. And so many candidates, the other, so that's one you want. That, that's the strategic approach you want to take. A mistake to avoid, Bola, is don't treat this conversation like a legal deposition. Too many candidates walk into interviews and they answer all the questions, and then the interviewer says, "Do you have any questions for me?" And they don't. They say, "No, no, I'm that's fine." It's a huge lost opportunity. You because it's also a great way to make it about the interviewer. And let me explain. So when you have an opportunity to ask questions, uh, ideally you've done your homework. You know what the challenges are the organization
Yeah.
faces because you've talked to people, you've looked online. You're not just going in cold and winging it. And it is shocking to me how many candidates still
Yes.
do that. So as you've answered the questions that have been prepared, you're again bringing it back to the needs of the organization and the hiring manager. But when you have a chance to ask questions, uh, it's uh, it's your opportunity to dig in deeper into the needs of that organization. And here's my favorite question. You don't want to ask it right off the bat, but at some point when you have the opportunity to ask questions, I always recommend that you say to the hiring manager, if I'm fortunate enough to get this job and you and I are sitting down in a year's time, we're doing my annual review. What are the three things you'll want me to tell you that I've done for you? And I guarantee you, when you ask this question, the hiring manager will pause, they'll lean back, and they'll think for a moment, and then they'll tell you something that's not in the job description, that's not in the questions that have been asked. There's some unmet need that is keeping them up at night. And the advantage of that to you as a candidate is your competitors probably haven't asked this question. So they don't know about this challenge. And the other advantage is you can reflect for a moment and think about your own experience and skills and talk about how you would handle that problem. And when you do that, the dynamic in the room changes. You become almost a peer of the hiring manager because you and she are talking about this problem and how you could work together to fix it. And that is a very powerful
Yeah.
experience.
I love that. As in, what keeps you up at night? Just focusing on the problems of the organization, focusing on the problems of the hiring leader, and not making it about you. But you coming in, being like the solution as the helper to help create the value is absolutely critical. But I want to absolutely be like a little bit of an extra. What are the questions you think could be like a shift that could help position whoever it is who's coming for that interview to stand out? What are the questions you think will be great to like wrap up an interview with?
A good one is to ask about if there are any concerns or issues that haven't been discussed that the interviewer might have about your candidacy, and that you could address. And I think that often you'll hear nothing, but sometimes it'll surface a concern or that hasn't been addressed in the formal interview process. And that, again, that's an opportunity for you to talk about, to hear that and address it directly. I think that you want to ask about, I mean, you can go on the internet and find lots of questions candidates can ask. And they are valuable, things like management style. Why did the last person in this position leave?
Yes.
What are some of the biggest challenges coming up? You probably want to make your list of questions relatively short, maybe 6 to 8. I think it's a good practice to write them out in advance. You can do it with handwritten notes or print something out. Interviewers are impressed when you pull out a list of prepared questions that demonstrates that you've thought about this and that you've been preparing for the interview. So I think those are the key ones. I would also say in the close, Paula, when you're interviewing for a job, it's a lot like sales, and there's a common practice in sales, or saying rather, that you got to ask for the order. And you'll often meet salespeople who will say that, you got to ask for the order, so I'm asking for the order. And the way you can do that in a job interview is at the end say, well, I'm very excited about this position, and I want to just emphasize that I think I'm the right person for this reason and this reason and this reason, and can solve the challenges that we've talked about or help you do that. And so I just want you to know I'd love to come and work here, and I just want to affirm that. When you do that, you're not only demonstrating your excitement and enthusiasm, it's another opportunity to talk about how you can solve problems. And again, excitement and enthusiasm are important. You got to have it. But what matters in the end is, can you make the lives of these managers and this organization better? And the more you talk about that, what's in it for them, rather than your needs, and your needs are important, so you pay attention to them, but that's going to be most persuasive.
That's a perfect segue for Project Lifestyle. I hope you guys heard that. I love the fact that we've been talking about positioning ourselves, but thinking about the employer, thinking about the value you bring to the table. When I think about personal life and personal development, I think, what exactly can I do so that I can showcase this? Mark has actually hit the nail on the head so many times. Mark has mentioned and spoken about, how do you uncover the things that you are great at? We're thinking about the unique value add. And for Project Lifestyle today, I really want to just address key things that can help you uncover your strengths. Before you go ahead to go navigate the job market, before you go ahead and position yourself for anything in life, you need to understand, why am I doing this? Or what am I really good at? Because exactly what that is will help you identify who has that area that your strengths or the value you bring can help meet that particular need. So to uncover your strengths, I'm going to give you some couple of steps that you can take away today that can help you identify them and keep improving on them at the same time. First, I want you to first of all do a bit of self-reflection. Take time and reflect on your life experience, both at work and at home. Uncover the things that you definitely enjoy doing, what excites you, and consider getting some feedback from people around. Like, think about your boss, think about your friends. What if people kind of told you that, Grace, Benjamin, you're great at this? Or people have given feedback to say, I love the way you did this. Self-reflection is absolutely critical. You take that piece and you do another aspect of self-assessment. Self-assessment as basic as doing a SWOT analysis, or you could even go as high as doing like a Gallup strength finder piece. Uncover your strength. There's Myers-Briggs. There's so many pieces and tools out there. We're doing an assessment of your strengths, your weaknesses, your leadership style, how you communicate, even how you want people to relate with you. You can uncover this, and this will also help identify the kind of roles and organizations that you probably should work for. For instance, if you're one who hates working in a fast-paced organization, then why would you ever want to go work for a technology like an innovative company? It doesn't make any sense. But you may be one who has a drive, who wants to like uncover things, wants to like create new stuff. Then that would be great. Ask for feedback, journal, set goals as well, and track your progress. Those are the things that has helped me as well in the past. I've been able to identify my strengths. I've been able to assess myself as well to say, what am I really not great at? And rather than even think about working on your weaknesses first, elevate your strengths and make sure you showcase those things, and then ask for professional guidance. As Marcus said, you might need a coach, you might need, support, it might be your leader, whatever that is, that would help you position yourself to not just land a job, but create a better life for yourself. What are your thoughts, Mark?
I agree. You need to have a plan. And I like the specificity of the suggestions you made about self-assessment. Those are wonderful tools that you described. I think that it's always important to remember that you need to identify what you want, and don't assume that you can't get what you want. So as you think about that target employer, we talked about this earlier in the conversation, and you touched on some important things about companies. Do you want to work at a tech company where they're going to email you at all hours of the day and expect you to work weekends? There are periods
2 a.m. in the morning, exactly.
There are periods in our life where that might be very appealing to us. But there are other periods in our life where we want to have a regular schedule, a good work-life balance. Maybe we have children and we want to attend sporting events. The clearer you are about what you want, the easier it gets to get it. And don't assume that the things you want are unattainable. There are employers with great work-life balance. There are hiring managers who understand you need to go to a sports event for your children. Our job when we're looking for in managing our careers is to have that clarity about what matters to us, and then do the research, do the homework to find those opportunities. And the more time we invest in doing that, the more satisfaction we'll have in our day-to-day work, and the more successful our career will be. Don't assume you can't get what you want, but in order to get it, you have to be clear about what you want.
I know, do your homework. That's at times, it's easy where people feel that I want to ride a Ferrari, right? Or you want a Bugatti. But are you really willing to put in the work that's needed to actually be able to earn what you need to get the car? Or are you just okay with the Toyota? At the end of the day, you hit the point, even from a career perspective, you're going to say, what do I really want for myself? Is it about the money? Is it about just learning? Is it about the work-life balance or the harmony I want to create in my life? Are you going to decide and say, I may not earn as much, or maybe I may aim to even get a pay cut and get a different role in an organization that's going to pay me as much, but I may get a director position where within a big organization, you may just be like a manager or just an analyst. So there are gives and takes, but having that self-reflection to understand, based on where you're at, based on all the different factors, what's that career plan? I think it goes back to having an overall career strategy to say, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And you may even say, I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. This may be something temporary. How do you chart the path to do that? And so it might mean you take up a different role that helps you learn a bit more about business, about all these things that can help you improve the skill set, because there's somewhere you're going. So having that plan is critical, and that will help you shape the path to the career that you really always wanted. Oh goodness, I love this so much.
Yeah,
So
and
now I'll say,
let me just add
go on,
quickly. I agree about the importance of a plan. Don't worry if you can't map it out for the next 35 or 40 years. Just knowing what you wanted to do in the next 1 to 3 or 5 years is plenty. uh, and just keep revisiting it. Some of us, I like long term plans too, but it's okay if you just want to look ahead to the next 3 to 5 years. The key is to have that clarity about what you want and what matters to you, and once you have that, whether you break it up over the course of a long career or you do it all at once and revisit it occasionally, it will pay dividends for you, and you'll have because in the end, the only right answer is what do we want as individuals, and that only we can answer that. We have to do this work, and but when we do it, we'll have much more satisfying lives and careers, and we'll do better at work too. We won't have those Sunday night blues, that feeling of dread that you get when you realize, oh gosh, I got to log in if I'm working remotely, or I have to go to the office if I'm hybrid or still going in 5 days a week.
Brace up. Awesome. It's time for questions and answers. I love it. And when you're just talking about those Monday blues, how many people are so, frustrated when it's Sunday night? They almost start getting the shakes. Goodness, it's going to be Monday, right? They think about maybe their boss, their team. How do they navigate that? But Mark is here to help you dive into those questions now. So let's see what we've actually had come up when it comes to questions. Oh, yeah. First question. Mark, what has been your greatest challenge through your career? And how have you been able to navigate that to get whatever positions that you've always wanted?
I think early in my career, one of my biggest challenge was learning how to look for work. I did not have great job search skills. And like many people, uh, I had a couple of great jobs land in my lap uh, at the right after university, and I thought, oh, this is easy. It's easy to find work, and when you do need to look for your next position, you just send out applications. Well, when I reflect back on how I had 3 great jobs in a row full after finishing university, and I can see now why they happened. One was a result of an internship, another was through a referral, um, and a third was because I had the right sets of skills. But I went through a long period of unemployment, and when I was 25, and then it happened again about 10 years later. And both of those experiences taught me the importance of not only learning job search skills, but having a good understanding of what I wanted for my career. And those experiences also taught me the importance of being of service to my professional network, um, and not only asking for help, but being of service to others. And that idea of service is a fundamental value of what drives our job board, maxlist.org, and why we invest so much time and effort in helping people learn job search skills.
I think this is great because at times we feel it's just about being technically sound, getting the education and the experience. But it's also an element of marketing, as you said, right? Where you could be great at your job, but I have found that talent alone doesn't get you the job because you could be good, but it's about, as you said, positioning. It's about, the marketing piece as well. It's about the referrals you get. You spoke about an internship. There's so many ways that you could chart a path to get the outcome that you want. So take note. And I love that the saying that I heard many, many years ago that said, the best time to find a job is not when you're looking for a job. So you need to always be ready, always be primed, from your online presence, as you said, you spoke about always consistently showing value and being the one that people always want to be around with, and then you have to showcase that. I wrote an article a while ago talking about demonstratable experience. Every time you're showing up, employers are wondering, how can this person be the one who can help solve a problem, as Mark has said? But you also have to somehow demonstrate that. So you're going to always showcase achievements, always, throw some light to the way you have helped create a solution, the way you've actually even been a team player, seriously, because there are times where, you could be so technically savvy, you could be a great leader per se, but if people don't really want to work with you, then there's really no chance. So developing those skills, personally improving yourself, these are things that are absolutely critical. Let's go to the next question. Oh, I think we have time for one more. So when you're navigating the professional ladder in applying for roles, how far can you actually leap? Do you go like one layer or the next level up? What do you recommend?
I think it depends on your interests and your skills and experience. So I'm a big fan of not thinking about professional. Let me restate that. I think, again, when you go back and do that self assessment, uh, and you also are doing that networking where you're talking to people about the opportunities in your field, that's a good time to get specific about what the next natural step would be. And sometimes when people work in large organizations and they're interested in moving up internally, they get focused on the titles. Um, it may be that your next best opportunity is outside that organization, or it could be inside the organization. The best way to find out is to take two steps. One, do that self assessment so you're clear about what you want next and what you offer. And the second step you need to take is to go out and talk to people who are doing the work that interests you and get feedback about two areas. One is what opportunities are available to someone like with the skills and experiences you have. And then second, help ask for feedback about what gaps you might have and get advice about how best to fill them. I do want to say just very quickly, I know our time is limited. uh, it's always important to remember when you look at job postings, many employers use these as a wish list. You don't need 100% of the qualifications and skills that are listed there. I talk to recruiters all the time. You mentioned earlier, I have a podcast about job search advice. I have had so many recruiters on that show tell me, Paula, they really only expect to get about 60 to 70% of the
Mm.
qualifications that are on a job posting. And there's a gender difference here that's important to talk about. There's research that shows men look at those postings and they think, oh, I've got 60%, I'll apply. And they get interviews because recruiters are only looking for 60, 70%. Women look at those postings and think, I don't have 100%. I'm not going to apply. And if you think you need more than 60%, you're missing out on opportunities. Don't sell yourself short.
I love that. Don't sell yourself short. There's so much that you have to offer. It never has to be 100%. I coined something called the 70-30 rule. I'm like, if you're 70% there, I think you're good enough to give it a shot and keep improving as you go. So what are your final takeaways for us? So for everyone who's actually listening today, we want to know what action can they go and take today that could help elevate and land their dream job anywhere?
I want to go back to a point I made at the start of our conversation. Don't wait to be picked. I I meet so many people who tell me they dream of working at this place or that place, and we talked about this earlier, Fola, and I'll say, well, who are you talking to there? And they're not talking to anyone because maybe it's fear, maybe they don't know how to do it, maybe they think it's impossible. If you know where you want to go, start talking to people inside that organization and do the self assessment that it's going to help you have rich conversations because you know what you want and what you offer, or you are in the process of finding that out and you're still waiting. You're talking to people about what you want to do. You're not waiting to be picked. Don't wait. Don't look at those websites at those organizations and wait for a posting to come up, because when that happens, you're going to be competing against 100 to maybe even 300 people if it's a big international organization. Um, there's nothing to stop you from having conversations with people and inside that employer, and you may discover as you have those conversations, hey, I don't want to be here, and that's good because you want to. We're
Exactly.
going to spend so much of our lives in our jobs. Let's spend that time doing work we enjoy, where we can make a difference, and we can keep learning and contributing throughout our careers.
100%. I know at the end of the day, we spend the better part of our lives in the workplace. But the outcome of what you get in your 9 to 5, I tell people, is a product of what you do in your 5 to 9. The work you do outside of work will position you for success, from self-development to learn continuous learning and improvement, to building those relationships, to cultivating those relationships as well. Absolutely critical to the success and the career you will always create. It never just falls on your lap. I guess some people are really lucky, but invest in your 5 to 9, the time outside of work. Build something for yourself. Keep improving. Connect with other individuals and create the career and the life you've always craved. Mark, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. It's been a great pleasure. It was definitely worth the wait. Thank you so, so much. I want to know, how can people connect with you? And how can people that get to reach and come into your world?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed the conversation very much. Uh, People can learn more about me and my work by connecting with me on LinkedIn. And be sure to mention you heard me on Vola's show. I also host a weekly career advice podcast, Find Your Dream Job, and you can find it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I talk about the nuts and bolts of job search. And as you mentioned, I do have a book, Land Your Dream Job, anywhere that you can find on Amazon or on our website, maxlist.org. And while our job board focuses on opportunities in Oregon and Washington State, most of our downloads for our podcast, Fola, come from outside those two states, and 30% of them are outside the United States. So it's a national in the United States or even global audience. And the reason that happens is because the principles you and I are talking about today and that we talk about on the podcast and the free content on our website, they're universal. They work in Oregon, but they also work in
Yes.
Canada or anywhere around the world.
Yes.
So
That's right. It's global, right? It doesn't matter where you're trying to get a job. Value is always value. And how do you position yourself as a value accelerator? That's what we are actually all about. I want to say thank you so much for everyone who has actually joined us. And let us know if you're going to be watching these on the replay. So let me see, let me hear, like, get a comment there that says replay. So I know that although you didn't watch us live, you caught us on the replay. But what are the key things that you're going to be taking away today? Beyond any form of knowledge or any idea that you gain, it's about taking action. Are you going to be going away to actually go learn and do a self-assessment? Are you going to go research into an organization or a couple of organizations you've always wanted? Are you going to go find out what are the first or second degree connections that may already work in that organization, and probably book a Zoom or coffee chat? How are you going to ensure that when you show up, you can leverage the skills that you already have? Another piece I want to wrap up with, always think about your transferable skills. The fact that you don't have a job title called Director of Change and Transformation doesn't mean that you haven't led strategically to help achieve change in an organization. So think about those things that you have done inside and outside of work, through volunteering, through even your personal life and personal development, and leverage all of that at interviews, in your resume, and create the career you've always created. I want to say thank you. I've got Indy had JX Bastate. Thank you so much for being here. Oh goodness, it's been had Ingar as well. Oh, I know he's from Mexico. Great to see you. Thank you so much. And above everything, it's all about you. I say you are your life's project manager. To make your life's project count, it means you take action daily. Do something, challenge yourself, and create the career and the life you've always created. Same time next week, we're going to be here with another exceptional leader to talk about how you can elevate your business and your life, leverage strategic leadership and project management school. Once again, I want to say thank you to Mark. I know we're going to be talking way more after this as well, and so many people are going to be connected. But thank you, and have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.